Hey, what's up, man? Gary Walker here, and welcome back for another video. All right, in this video, I'm gonna tell you why I decided to do another bodybuilding competition now that I'm approaching 50 years old. All right, here's the thing. I had competed in 7 different bodybuilding competitions. The last one I had done prior to these last 2 was 17 years ago, all right? I started competing 21 years ago. I did 7 bodybuilding competitions over a 3.5 year period. So basically, did those, all of my kids were young, all right? So I had a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old when I last competed. So my babies are all grown now, all right? I've got a 19-year-old, 22-year-old, and a 24-year-old. The only reason I'm telling you that is because they had grown up seeing pictures and hearing me talk about some of the shows I had done and all those things. They watched some of the videos and they were little and didn't really understand what was happening when I was competing back when they were younger. So they had kind of mentioned it over the years. They would love to see me on stage now that they're older and they can comprehend everything. And we had talked about it a lot, but it was never my intention to do another bodybuilding show. Here's the thing that you may not be aware of. When you are competition ready, when you were stage ready, to get that lean, it's not necessarily the most healthy body fat percentage, all right? Because we're talking you need to be 5%, 4%, maybe even 6% body fat just to be stage ready. And I never recommend going that lean because your hormones are all out of whack. Your mental comprehension, everything, your cognitive abilities, everything's slowed down, you get irritable. There's a lot of things that aren't necessarily the most optimal for all people, especially older people, all right? Again, I'm approaching 50 years old. I'm getting a lot older in age compared to when I was in my late 20s and early 30s when I last competed. So in this video, I'm gonna share some of the differences that I experienced and also let you know what was the final push over the edge that got me to want to do this again. All right. Again, my kids kind of talked to me about it. We joked about it. We discussed it. And it wasn't until I had 2 losses. I lost my father-in-law on a September, a little over a year ago. And then my Joy, my oldest boxer, Zoe, I lost her at 7 years old. She was only 7. She got diagnosed with a heart disease. And she was my, like I said, she was my joy. She was my happiness. All right, no matter what type of day I was having, I could always just go to her, play with her, and I would instantly be happy. All right, so I lost her and I was broken after those 2 losses. Didn't really know what to do. I could not function properly, all right? So I decided, you know what? I am going to choose a show. I'm going to do a bodybuilding show because I know what that requires as far as mental capacity. I knew all of my thoughts would go into that. Everything I'm thinking about on a day in, day out basis would be towards preparing for that show. And so that's basically what got me pushed over the edge and got me started looking for a show. I ended up deciding to do 2 bodybuilding shows. So I chose 2. I wanted to do one as a warm-up show because it had been so long since I had competed. I wasn't sure what had changed as far as getting on stage, what I was going to be asked to do on stage. Because when I last competed, all we had was bodybuilding. I competed as a middleweight bodybuilder. That was my only option. Now you had men's physique, classic physique, bodybuilding. There's so many different things that you can compete in now, and I wasn't sure where I was going to fit in. All right, so that's basically what I did. I chose one show. I competed in 6 different categories and did really well. But again, I just wanted to share my motivation. That's what motivated me to get started, was those losses and needing to find something to put my focus into so I wouldn't just be lost in my thoughts about my Zoe, about my father-in-law, and realizing how short life truly is. All right, so if I was gonna do it, now's the time to do it. And with that, here's the main difference I noticed. My body didn't respond the same, obviously, as it used to. I would diet 12 weeks, I'm ready to go. Every week, I would notice a subtle change in my body. That was when I was younger. All right, now the case, it was taking 2-3 weeks for me to get small incremental changes. All right, because you want to make sure you're accounting for everything. Calories, workouts, everything was different. Last time I worked out 6 days a week. This time I worked out 4 days a week with resistance training because I needed more rest and recovery time. My body doesn't recover now that I'm closer to 50. That's the other big change. And then also, I used to lift really heavy weight back then. Now that had to be changed. So I cut back on the weight I was doing, cut back on the amount of days I was doing, and then I added a little more volume to my body parts. Since I was not going to be working out 6 days a week, I wanted to maximize the time I had in the gym. So that's what I did. And same with the nutrition. There were small changes I had to make there. I wasn't able to eat as many carbs. Last time I would start out at 300 carbs, diet down to 200. And I would go into a show eating 200 carbs. This time I started out at 250, realized I had to make a bigger cut. So I ended up about 75 carbs towards the end of my training for my first show. Then my second show I did after that, I actually had to cut even more carbs. All right, the one thing I want you to realize, I needed my carbs to function mentally. All right, so I didn't cut those out completely, and I started carb cycling towards the end. That made a drastic difference. But the main deal I want you to get out of this is it's not the most healthy thing for older men. Again, I've got some videos documenting what I felt like leading up to those shows and reviewing those. One of the biggest things that I took away from those videos is that my irritability was at an all-time high. I'm a happy person, man. I love life, love my family, love everything that I do. However, when I was dieted down that strict, I started getting frustrated. I started getting irritable. I started getting just moody around the people that I love. All right, and then my hormones were all out of whack. So once I got into about the 8 to 9% body fat range, that's when I noticed my hormones took a drastic hit as well. So those are the things that you need to understand when you see people extremely lean. These guys that are staying in the 8% body fat or less range year round, they're not the most healthy guys no matter what they look like. Hormones are never going to be optimized at that level. So you do need some extra body fat. And I'm not talking about a large amount of body fat. If you can be 10 to 12% body fat, that's actually going to be a great body fat range to look great, feel great, and have optimized hormones. For me, it's about 12%. 12%, I was feeling amazing. 10% felt good, but I could tell there was a difference in day-to-day activities. And then once I started dipping below that, that's when I noticed the drastic changes. But yeah, so basically that's what I did. Those were the differences with my workouts. I worked out less, continue to work out with great intensity, but I also focused on never going so heavy that I couldn't do at least 6 reps of something. So 6 to 8 rep range was my heavy weight days, and typically everything else is around the 10 to 15 reps. 10 to 15 reps, that's what I did. 16 total sets for my big body parts. Meaning when I worked my legs, when I worked my chest, my back, I would do 16 total sets. When I would do shoulders, buys, tries, anything like that, even abs, it was 9 total sets. And that's over a 7-day period. So that seemed to be perfect for my recovery ability. And the last thing I will let you know is what I noticed is my body still looked pretty similar. I compared my shows 17 years ago to the 2 I just did, and believe it or not, I looked very similar, but there was a 10-pound difference. That's the main thing. There was about a 10-pound difference on body mass. So that's the biggest hit. As you get older, even if you're consistent, you will notice a loss of muscle mass, which is why I always tell my guys, focus on building as much muscle as possible. All right, build that muscle, because the more muscle you have on your body, the faster your metabolism is going to be, the more healthy you're going to be. There's so many more benefits to having more muscle on your body. And as you age, you're not always going to be able to put muscle back on your body the way you were when you were in your 20s and even 30s. So again, that's where my biggest hit was. Side-by-side comparisons, I was really proud of the way I looked. Thought I looked pretty similar, same body type. body shape, body conditioning, all of those things. It was just less mass. And then also, if you want to know how I did, first show I competed in 6 different categories like I mentioned earlier. I got a couple second place finishes and the rest were first place finishes. Second show, which is one I was really preparing myself for, I only competed in 4 categories. 4, and that was 2 and 2. 2 first, 2 second. So again, another thing I realized at my age, competing in open competitions, I was on stage with 20-year-old men, all right, 20-year-olds, and I was happy that I didn't get any worse than second place. Loved my outcome, loved the ability for my kids to actually see me on stage. My wife was there with me again. She's always been my huge supporter. Back then, even now, she and I have been together almost 27 years, all right, and we got about another week and a half from today. It will be our 26th wedding anniversary. So she's been a part of all these journeys with me. And so again, it was great having her there to support me because I couldn't have done it without her. She made all the difference in the world. And one thing you will also notice if you ever attempt to do a bodybuilding show, there's gonna be a lot of days you just wanna throw in the towel because it is not easy. No joke. It's very, very difficult to do one of these. And with that said, as always, get busy, get after it, and God bless.